Hi, this is a showcase for a Path of Exile 2 build that I have been playing since 0.5 league start, and while I do not have any expensive endgame gear, it has proven to play very pleasant and successful in my endgame journey and in tier 15 maps, and I have done all basic pinnacle bosses by now, so I just wanted to make this video. This is a poison bow build at the core. There are quite some build guides on the internet in general about poison builds, in particular for last season 0.4. This season, however, poison has not been very prominent, mainly because the Pathfinder ascendancy has been nerfed a bit. Most poison guides are based around the physical damage bow, but I went a slightly different route for damage scaling, so keep that in mind. And I started as Gemling Legionnaire because I wanted to see the new skill quality effects, and I just went on with it because it also has some unique benefits and utility, especially on the defensive side. However, Chayula Monk may probably be right now the best ascendancy when it comes to raw offensive power. Just as a short overview before going into more details later, the build uses the usual poison bow attacks: Poison Burst Arrow, Gas Arrow, and Toxic Growth. Poison Burst for clear, Toxic Growth for bosses. However, with the unique bow Voltaxic Rift, which converts lightning damage to chaos damage, thus allowing lightning damage to poison. This enables scaling with flat lightning damage on gear like rings, and scaling with percentage-based chaos damage as well. It deals chaos hit damage as well as chaos poison damage, and due to the unique effect of Voltaxic Rift, is able to shock with chaos damage. It's also possible with other interactions to even freeze bosses, more on that later. Defensively, I'm going a bit against the meta by scaling evasion and armor, along with the supporting stats deflection, and armor applies to elemental damage. The unique benefits of Gemling Legionnaire come into play here. When using mainly dexterity gems, which give these green stacks, Virtuous Barrier gives a huge boost to all defenses. So in my case, these 15 stacks give 75 increased armor, evasion, and energy shield. The strength requirements account for about 14 increased maximum life. So that, combined with the spirit gems like Wind Dancer for evasion and Scavenged Plating for armor, substantially boosts raw defense values. Scavenged Plating, by the way, is able to work passively without additional setup, as the unique quality effect of Gemling Legionnaire for Poison Burst Arrow makes it possible to break armor with poison damage automatically. As for skill gems, let's start with Herald gems first. Herald of Plague is for spreading the strongest poison stack. Herald of Blood is for the unique interaction with Bursting Plague. Bursting Plague builds on a poisoned enemy and explodes on death for physical damage. This physical damage hit can bleed through bleed support, which causes another Herald of Blood explosion on death, which again applies poison, and poison support increases our damage against bleeding enemies. Withering Presence is another 30 spirit gem, which boosts our damage as we do full chaos damage also with our hits, and while it takes a few seconds to gradually apply stacks, it's a huge damage gain, especially against bosses. Our defensive spirit gems are Wind Dancer for evasion. The choice of supports, whether maim, punch through, or blind, or others, is not of too much importance. Scavenged Plating hugely boosts our armor as long as we use Poison Burst Arrow, because, as mentioned, Poison Burst Arrow will break armor automatically. While mapping, it usually sits on maximum stacks all the time. Poison Burst Arrow is our clear skill. We can use the same technique as with Herald of Plague, with Poison and Bleed to proliferate Poison and Bleed explosions via Bursting Plague, and Deadly Poison is to maximize poison damage. Projectile Acceleration is a good damage boost with no drawbacks, because with the passive notable increases to projectile speed also apply to projectile damage. The bow cluster, projectile speed and arrow speed in general is a very good start for us. Toxic growth is for boss damage and for tanky elites, with the standard supports concentrated area, long fuse, projectile acceleration for the reasons just mentioned. Kali's Lust is a good lineage support if you get that in the endgame. Chaos attunement is here good as well, because we only deal chaos damage with the hits and with poison. We do not use it on poison burst area because it would reduce our physical bursting plague, explosion and bleeds, as it reduces all non-chaos damage. Gas arrow is necessary to buff and to explode our toxic growth pustules. So with salvo support we can fire every few seconds a couple of arrows to cover everything around us in poison clouds. Standard supports for maximum ground coverage, persistent ground and encroaching ground. Hand of Jayula is our weapon swap skill, which we use against bosses for two things. First, to apply Despair, which reduces chaos resistance, and second, to apply Freezing Mark. Despair linked with Decaying Hex will deal chaos damage over time, which enables us to use Chaotic Freeze support, which lets all of our chaos damage hits contribute to freeze buildup. Usually bosses are frozen within a few seconds, but sometimes they also die before that. But this is a really nice interaction, I think. Finally, I had 30 spirit left and I picked Defiance Banner as an extra boost to movement speed, boost to evasion and armor, and through refraction support, deflection and armor against elemental damage also gets buffed. This can be activated during boss fight or for stationary fights like rituals, monoliths, and it recharges rather fast. Another option would be War Banner for 25% more attack damage, which is nice to burst down bosses, but that's up to you. One word about Rage. The new Eternal Rage gem is also quite popular this season, and it only costs about 85 spirit instead of 100 spirit for Gemling Legionnaire, but I found the other spirit gems to be more fun and defensively stronger. The green gems in Bowshot are only to guarantee the reduced movement speed penalty of the Ascendancy Talent gem studded. So passive tree, in general I took the standard poison clusters plus the bow cluster and some extras, which are mostly optional. Poison clusters are for poison magnitude and additional poison stacks, and the bow cluster is for allocating projectile speed to projectile damage and for one extra pierce for poison burst arrow. I used the unique gem from Nothing to take points in the radius of Oasis, which are quite strong for ailment damage and for evasion. Furthermore, area of effect and projectile speed come handy, and I even took the AoE shock node for a small clearing improvement in flavor. The shock magnitude nodes are not mandatory, but they do improve boss damage because you will shock instantly. Whether or not the quiver nodes are worth it depends on the quiver, but in my case I decided that they are good after checking with Path of Building. Other options would include Maiming Strikes or Heavy Ammunition. The other unique gem, Megalomaniac, allows for 2 additional notable allocations. In my case I picked one with Deterioration, which is rather strong, and the other option that I got for cheap was Resolution, which is 10% armor, evasion and energy shield, but you can pick whatever works for you and for your budget. anointed backup plan, but again there are lots of other choices. The popular but expensive Lasting Trauma is among them. And one word regarding to crit nodes. Crit is very strong if heavily invested into. However, I did not switch to crit, mainly because the base crit chance of Voltaxic Rift is rather low, and the required lineage gem supports are also very expensive, and crit gear is expensive in general. But a crit build is certainly possible and good. Equipment: Voltaxic Rift got runes for 1 additional arrow, extra chaos damage, and +1 poison stack. Due to our strong Virtuous Barrier, which boosts all defenses, I went with Moria Invictus body armor, which has evasion, armor, and energy shield, along with bonus spirit, life, and defenses, but there are also other options like rarity or resistances. The third unique that I use is Decree of Equity helmet, which is extremely strong defensively, especially for an armor and evasion build. And the reversed blind effect increases our evasion by an extra 20%. My rings have flat lightning damage, as this is great with Voltaxic Rift, and lightning damage gets converted. Other options are increased chaos damage, evasion, or other useful stats, life, resistances. Boots and gloves can have deflection rating, or armor applies to elemental damage. The rest is basically resistances, life, defenses, some kind of mana regeneration, or mana on kill. When clearing with Poison Burst Arrow, mana is no concern, but when spamming Toxic Growth, it depletes rather quickly. That's also why I use the traditional mana flask instead of the popular Lavianga's Spirit unique passive flask. Yeah, that's all of it. I'm sure I have forgotten something, but thank you.